This right here is one of Microsoft 365's most hidden features. Not many people try it out, but it's basically Microsoft's version of Google NotebookLM. It's called Copilot Notebooks. And by the end of this video, you'll know how it works, how you can use it, and where it's going to fit into your day-to-day life. So you're probably wondering, what is Copilot Notebooks? Maybe you've seen the little avatar and you're curious about what it is instead of just jumping in. Now, very simply, it's an AI workspace that you can add context to, and it will use that context plus an instruction to get the job done. A simple translation of that is basically it's going to pull from a select amount of files instead of absolutely everything. So there are two versions of Copilot Notebooks. There's one for family, personal users, and for work and school accounts. The work and school accounts is going to be a lot more powerful and allow you to do more, and something I'll cover in another video. Today's video is kindly sponsored by Setapp, and I'll share a little bit more later in the video. So this right here is Microsoft 365 Copilot, and as you can see, I'm viewing it on the web version. Now, if you go over to the app launcher in the top left-hand corner, you'll be able to see a range of different apps, many that you all know and love already. And you can see this one called Notebooks here. Now, when you click into Notebooks, you can go ahead and create a new notebook, and a new notebook can be generated for each of the different things that you're working on. So I'm just going to run through how to create a new notebook and just a bit of information around it before we actually show you some worked examples from an account I created earlier. So if I go and press new notebook, I can call the notebook absolutely anything. I could call this one video generation ideas. And as you can see, I can add references straight away. Now you can add references from uploading them from what you've got on your device, files, storage. You can add a link. You can also upload and attach anything you've got in OneDrive. Down here, it will accept anything from docx to PowerPoint and everything in between. So if I go ahead and create a thing, I think there's two things you need to know about this. So there's this thing called Copilot Instructions, and they're really simple. You can add up to 8,000 characters and build out a little bit of context every time the chat is triggered. So for example, this could be your job role or the objective of the notebook itself. I'll show you some examples in a moment. But the idea is to put it all in a format that's going to be easily consumable for the AI to improve the output. Next thing is down here, you've got something called references. This is where the Copilot is going to pull from the files and information that you've got for later. You can even create something called a page, and this is Copilot Pages. It's essentially a way to create a shared document with other people and add more context, and you can even use the Copilot on the left-hand side to improve the output that you're working on. So now I've shown you the basics of creating a notebook, I want to actually show you a Q3 example I created here. So one thing I did is I put together 3 or 4 documents, a PowerPoint, an Excel document, and a Word document as well. And they're all around Q3, which is just planning ahead. So here I've got an Excel of numbers for projections. I've got a project schedule, which is all the different types of work that is coming in. And finally, a board update, as well as a PDF of goals, just to show you the range of files that you can upload. Now you can create those new pages if you did want to. Now you can even click this tab here and see all of the chats you've had previously. But what I'm going to show you next is how to improve the Copilot instructions. So if I go over to Copilot Instructions, you can start to see that I've generated this one. I did it separately. You can obviously do this if you have like a bit of a loose idea of how you want to prompt it. You can obviously double prompt, which means putting it into an AI engine, then getting a prompt out and adding it to an AI engine. It helps to improve the prompt before you put it in, to structure it, make it feel a little bit cleaner for the computer to understand what you're talking about. So as you can see here, you're executive assistant to an operations director at a construction company, and it's around about 956 characters, as you can see down at the bottom. So you can see even with a pretty decent prompt like this, like with what style you want, what focus area, and the plans and summaries, you're still going to get 7,000 more characters if you need it. So if I press save, that means that every time this runs, it's going to understand that context, which is helpful for me. So my first example is going to be showcasing a little bit of an interfacing between what you've got. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a prompt, which is what are the top 3 priorities for Q3 2026 and what's the financial targets behind them? Now inside of Notebook, what you need to do is go and add and manage sources. So in this case, I'm going to use add and manage sources to add a bit more context to what I'm working on. In this case, I'm going to use this Q3 goals, select it, and I'm going to go ahead and kick the Copilot chat off. So here we have Copilot respond back. And the one thing you'll notice is that everything is referenced with the actual document in place. If I go ahead and click into it, we'll open the OneDrive file, which means that it's referenced that information exactly. Now, what's nice is it's following the same prompt instructions that I created earlier. In that set of instructions, it said create what the next 7-day action plan is based around how I typically work. And as you can see, it's done that down here. So I think it's time to level up with example 2. So I've got one here saying our Q3 margin is tracking at 1.7 points below target. What's the driving cap across the projects and what 3 levers can I pull in July to close it? So I'm pulling multi-projects here and I'm actually going to bring in 4 of these. So it may take a little bit longer to prepare that information. So as you can see here, it's started to generate them and it's basing itself off of all of those 3 elements. For example, in that Q3 report of the financials, it actually said that this forecast, and you can see that that's the 1.7 margin points, and that's why there's a £31,000 foot shortfall. But down here, it also indicates that from the board update, there's a risk view pointing to likely drivers, e.g. all of these pointers. So it's going to go ahead and break down a recommended, or the 3 levers, based on all of the context it provided, which is incredibly helpful. Now you're probably wondering, what makes this different to, okay, just constantly shoving these in again and again and again? Well, if you have this as a dedicated notebook, it means you can start chats from these reference points at any given point. Obviously, you can do this inside of Copilot already with chat connecting OneDrive, but at the same time, it's definitely a lot easier the other way. So in example number 3, I want to overview something that's really helpful if you're in a bit of a rush or maybe you're an audio-based learner. So there's a feature very much to NotebookLM called Get Audio Overview. Now, this is quite nice because you can generate a podcast style overview of all of the information that's added. Now, for some people, this may just give them a little bit of a better understanding of it, or they could listen to it in the background as they're working on something else. You can really improve this. You can have it as dialogue or narration, professional or shorter, and you can add more context. For example, you could say, let's focus on the margin here that we were talking about before. So you maybe want an audio overview of that example. Now, as you can see, it's going to take up to 2 minutes to generate that, which isn't mad, but at the same time, of course, it gives you an idea and it pulls from those references we mentioned earlier. Another thing while we're waiting is that inside of Copilot pages, you can see there's actually quite a detailed interaction in terms of tagging people and bringing people in here. You can actually bring a few people in here to interact, and you can create this into a document or a PDF, and you can share or copy the component to be used in other places inside of the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. So as you can see here, it's generated it up here, and you can change the voice if you want, or the language that you're going with. Now, you can also save that exact briefing to OneDrive, which means you might need to listen to it on the go. You can save it and then have it on your mobile phone to quickly access. You can also change the playback speed to up to 2x or half speed. This is really helpful because it will give you a better overview of how it works, and I'll play a little bit of an example of what it actually sounds like.
Documents are trying to... The Q3 2026 board update. Welcome. Today's overview focuses on Northvale Construction Limited and its Q3 2026 position across operations, finance, live projects, and departments. Phase 2 must be handed over by the 29th of September. Second, Northvale wants to win the Hartwell Industrial...
So folks, that was 365 Copilot Notebooks. It's a system that wants to try to help you to retain better knowledge based on references that you have added to the notebook itself. Now, I just want to point out some top alternatives that are out there. Obviously, we know about Google NotebookLM, but there's also one called Recall AI, which is also a good one for bringing in things like podcasts, YouTube videos, and other type sources. And it also does things like generates AI voice and cloning based on the podcast style that you want. It also does flashcards, quizzes, and it's probably better more for consumer interactions. So thank you so much for stopping by in today's video. Hopefully it was helpful. If you're new to this channel and you want to keep ahead or stay ahead of AI, then do subscribe. It'd be amazing to have you. Do check it out below, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheerio for now. And thanks to Setapp for sponsoring today's video. Quick question, how many individual subscriptions are you paying for right now on your Mac device? Because there is actually a smarter way. Setapp is a marketplace with hundreds of hand-picked Mac apps. You can buy just the ones you need, or you can get a membership with access to all of them. Clean My Mac keeps your system fast, Bartender declutters your menu bar, Al Dente Pro protects your battery, and there's total budget control. You can pick what works for your workflow without overpaying for apps you don't use. Setapp is offering an extended 30-day trial. Links right in the top of the description. Check it out there.